We were talking to you about those unemployment figures. Isabel, what have you got on those?
Well, the UK average regular earnings growth has eased back to 6.6% in the 3 months to November and lifted 1.4% after taking CPI inflation into account. That's according to the Office for National Statistics. And some more news just coming in. The rate of UK unemployment has remained unchanged at 4.2%. That's the stat we were after in the 3 months to November. I don't know if Olivia's still there, and we can get some reaction to her. We've got Jonathan Ashworth, in fact, the Shadow Paymaster General, joining us to reflect on that. What's your take then? Unchanged at 4.2%. The government will be pleased with that this morning, won't they?
Well, of course, overall, our employment rates have not fully recovered from our pre-pandemic levels, and we still have these huge numbers, record levels of people out of work for reasons of long-term sickness. And that's a reflection that after 14 years now of the government, the NHS really has been driven into the ground, that people are waiting longer for mental health treatment or perhaps treatment for a hip operation or a knee operation, which means many people are simply not able to work. And that in the end is bad for the economy. It means your economy is less productive. It's a brake on economic growth. That means that living standards are not rising because our economy is not growing at a sufficient level. So you've really got to start fixing the NHS, as well as giving people who are out of work real support to find some form of work so they can be earning again.
What type of work would that be, Jonathan?
Well, look, I mean, some people who are currently out of work for reasons of sickness or perhaps disability, in a world of where there's greater working from home flexibility, where there's greater use of digital data technology, there are some types of work that people could be prepared to do. I mean, we all know that the world of work is not what it was years ago when everybody went to a factory or whatever. So the types of work that some people are able to do, and one of the proposals I put forward was a very significant welfare reform proposal to give people who are on sickness benefits, if they try out returning to the workplace, and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, then there is a path back to claiming their sickness benefit. But the reason I propose that is because a lot of people, once they move on to the sickness or the disability benefit regime, are reluctant to leave it. So you need to give people an incentive to try work.
In the autumn statement, the government announced their Back to Work scheme, amongst which they talked about removing benefits for people who refuse to get a job, even once they've been declared fit. I mean, that seems like a fair way of trying to incentivise people. If you're fit and well and you're not actually going about taking all the opportunities that we're laying out for you, then I'm afraid we won't keep paying your bills for you.
Yeah, and there were lots of, in that autumn statement, there were lots of ideas put forward from the government, which they actually took off me. So they obviously were listening to me on my regular GBNews morning appearances. And look, you always have had conditionality and consequence in the benefit system. You've always had, if you're able to work and you refuse, you can't just keep claiming the benefits. There has to be consequences in those circumstances. And I've always been clear on that.
The OBR have been forecasting that the number of health-related benefits is expected to rise by 600,000 to 3.4 million in 2028-29. Now, if the polls are to be believed, that will be under your stewardship, a Labour government. Do you think, then, that you will be able to tackle this problem in the way, you say that the Tories are nicking your ideas? You'll have this sorted then, will you?
Well, I mean, those figures I think reveal how staggering this increase in the benefit bill is. And of course it is linked to the state of the National Health Service, because if you cannot get mental health care, or if you've been told you have got to wait longer and longer for a hip replacement or a knee replacement, it's understandable that people will end up being forced out of work, putting their livelihoods at risk and not being able to earn a wage and therefore sign on for sickness benefits. So a big part of this is turning around the NHS, giving people both the mental health care that we know a lot of people need these days, as well as making sure that we have procedures in the NHS. We're going to do 2 million more procedures a year. A lot of that will be hip replacements, knee replacements, hernias, eye cataracts. Sometimes these procedures get described by politicians as not emergency, well, or not urgent. Well, it's pretty urgent if you can't work because you're waiting for a hernia operation or a hip replacement. And lots of people in their 40s and 50s need these procedures these days. So it's really important you fix the NHS to get people back to work. And, of course, that you look at reforms to your welfare system, which we've proposed.
Jonathan, just controversially, in 10 minutes' time, we're going to be debating, I suppose, people say there are lots of reasons why 4.2% of the population remain unemployed. And the debate is that we're going to have, should we cut universal credit and force then unemployed people into work? What would you say about that, just as a headline?
No, I don't think you should cut universal credit. In fact, the government did cut it. They took £20 off universal credit and they didn't uplift it in line with inflation last year. So they've already cut it anyway. And it's a very low level of benefit. And a lot of people, people think that it's a life of Riley, claiming the job seekers allow better universal credit, then it really isn't. But what you need to do is you've got to give people proper support in the employment system. Look, let me just give you one very, very quick example before I know you're probably pushed for time, right? I was talking to some people who wanted to get young people back to work. They were trying to find jobs for young people in the hospitality sector in the bit of I think it was Swindon. And they said they could employ or get something like 20, 30 young people into jobs in the hospitality sector. They went to the local job centre and said, give us the names of 20 to 30 young people and we'll get them into jobs. The job centre couldn't even provide them with the names because of data, and they hadn't saved the names of 20 to 30 young people who said they'd be interested in taking jobs in hospitality. That's crazy. So there are reforms like that we can introduce to better get people into jobs.
Just finally, the French mayor of Le Touquet, which we know is one of those towns on the northern French border that sends lots of migrants across illegally into France, he's called our benefits system El Dorado, and he says that's luring migrants. Do you agree?
No, what's bringing over migrants is these people smuggling gangs, and we've got to go after them. You know, these boats, they're made to order. They aren't like on sort of some dinghy that they bought on Amazon. These are made-to-order boats which they're using. This is a criminal enterprise, and you've got to go after them with proper investment in cross-border policing and security measures. And today you're going to have Tory MPs at each other's throats, rowing with one another over this bill. This is the third piece of legislation the government have brought forward to try and deal with this problem. And Rishi Sunak keeps saying he'll stop the boats, and every time he says that, he fails and he's exposed to being completely weak. He's got his own deputy chairman, one of your TV presenters, of course, actually defying him, and he's not doing anything about it. Completely weak. He's never going to grip this problem, or this country's never going to grip this problem while we have such a weak Prime Minister.
You're certainly not weak. Well, before I say goodbye to you, just want to use you as a thermometer out there and tell us
the cold.
Just how cold is it where you are, mate?
It's I'm freezing one of my... No, I won't say that.
Hopefully you've got your hands in your pockets, at least, to keep you warm. We'll let you go and get cosy. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.